The final trial. The rain beat down hard that night, a rhythmic drumming against the dark, empty streets that held the city's secrets like a vault. The alleyways were quiet, except for the echoes of my boots against the cracked pavement, the night's chill settling into my bones. I'd been chosen for something no one else could comprehend, a destiny carved into the stars themselves. The universe, with all its twisted pathways, had put me here, now, at this time and place, and the only way to save it all was to embrace the shadow that waited within me. The first time I heard the voice, it was a whisper that slipped into my thoughts, soft and easy. It didn't come with fanfare or the thunder of revelation, just a slow, creeping certainty that wrapped around me, filling me with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The battle is coming, it had said. The last one. And you've been chosen to stand against the Mechatron. I'd been waiting for a moment like that my whole life, some sign that there was something more than this life, something that mattered beyond the mundane ticking of the clock. The Mechatron, it told me, was an ancient enemy, the embodiment of pure, mindless destruction, a dark figure woven into the mythologies of every people, every culture. From the frost giants of old to the ogres of Slavic lore, to the mechanical beasts of the future, the Mechatron had always been there, a nightmare ready to rip through our world and leave it in ashes. Only a chosen warrior could face it, and somehow that warrior was me. But there was a cost. The power I needed to face the Mechatron, the strength to rise up in the final battle, wasn't free. It couldn't be. I would have to prove myself, show a commitment that went beyond mere conviction. To win, to gain that strength, I had to become one with the cosmic force that had chosen me. I had to sever every last connection to weakness, to this earthly shell that held me back. And that's where it got messy. I took the knife out of my coat pocket, its edge glinting in the pale streetlight. It felt warm in my hand, almost as if it were alive, a part of this ancient power that pulsed inside me. The voice told me the test would be hard, that I'd have to go further than I ever imagined. There was a price to be paid for power, a toll to be taken from my soul, but I couldn't look back now. Not when I knew what was at stake. Humanity needed me, even if it meant taking the lives of the innocent. It was all part of the test, it assured me, necessary to prove my strength, my resolve, my willingness to let go of what held me back from true cosmic power. That night I found my first target, just a man walking home from some late shift, minding his own business, with that slumped posture of someone weighed down by the world's burdens. For a second, a pang of something twisted in my chest, a flicker of doubt, of guilt. But the voice soothed it away, calming the storm that threatened to rise up inside me. "This is not murder," it whispered. "This is sacrifice." I waited until he was close, then took a step forward, blocking his path. He looked up, eyes wide with surprise, and in that instant, before he could react, I plunged the blade forward. His eyes met mine, a question flickering in them, something innocent, something broken. But I held steady. This was my test, my duty, and when he fell, his last breath slipping out in a soft gasp, I felt it, a surge of something otherworldly, a spark of power that hummed through my veins. But with the power came the emptiness, a hollow space in my chest that felt like it could swallow me whole. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself it was the price of my duty, but each time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, heard that quiet gasp. It didn't matter. There was no turning back. The weeks went by, each night bringing a new test, a new target. I moved through the city like a shadow, unseen, unnoticed, striking quickly and fading into the darkness. Each time I felt the surge, that otherworldly energy filling me, making me stronger. But with each death, that hollow space inside grew wider, colder. The voice told me this was right, that the pain was temporary, that it would fade in the face of the final battle. But it didn't fade. Instead, it grew, gnawing at my insides, tearing me apart piece by piece. I was saving humanity, yes, but at what cost? How many innocents would have to fall to make me strong enough? How many more sacrifices would be needed? One night, the voice came back, stronger, more insistent. "It's almost time," it said, its tone as smooth and calm as ever. "You've almost proven yourself. The Mechatron waits, its power unmatched, its will unbreakable. You will need to give it everything." "Everything?" I muttered to myself, the word hanging in the cold air. I looked down at my hands, bloodied, shaking. The knife felt heavier than ever, its blade duller, darker. I knew what it was asking, knew what this final act of proof would be. To face the ultimate darkness, you must abandon all that you cling to, all that makes you weak. I closed my eyes, letting the voice guide me, feeling that familiar pull, that promise of glory, of purpose. I moved through the streets, letting the voice lead me, my feet carrying me to a small house on the edge of town. It was a quiet place, the kind of home where laughter should have filled the air. But tonight it was silent, the only sound the quiet creak of the wind against the door. Inside I saw her, my 104-year-old grandmother, sitting alone, lost in her thoughts. She didn't see me, didn't notice the shadow I'd become. For a moment the voice was silent, the room so still I could hear my heartbeat, steady and strong, pounding out the rhythm of my fate. But when she looked up, her eyes meeting mine, the illusion shattered. The weight of what I was about to do crashed down on me, that hollow space inside my chest breaking open, flooding me with something I hadn't felt in weeks. Regret, guilt, terror. I tried to look away, but the voice, that smooth, steady voice, came back, stronger than ever. "This is the last test," it murmured. "This is your final act of strength. Prove that you are worthy." My hands shook, the blade cold and heavy, its weight pressing down on me like the universe itself. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't look into her eyes and follow through, couldn't let go of that last thread of humanity holding me back. And then something changed. The voice grew harsh, angry, a dark edge creeping into its tone. "Weakling, fool." It hissed, its words cutting into me like knives, ripping away that sense of purpose, that feeling of destiny. "You were never chosen. You were nothing." The room spun around me, the voice turning to laughter, cold and hollow, echoing in my mind, a twisted mockery of everything I'd believed. I staggered back, the weight of my actions crashing down on me, every life I'd taken flashing before my eyes, each face a silent scream in the darkness. I dropped the knife, my hands trembling, tears streaking down my face as the reality of what I'd done hit me. There was no Mechatron, no cosmic purpose, no last battle. There was only me, a broken man lost in his own mind, led astray by the whispers of madness. The silence settled over me like a shroud, cold and unrelenting, as I crumpled to the floor. The weight of my own sins pressing down, crushing me under its merciless grip. And in the darkness I saw their faces, each one staring back at me, the final judge of my twisted soul. And I knew that for the rest of my life, I would never escape their gaze. A week later, I found myself in Thailand on a journey of recuperation, trying to drink away memories that wouldn't leave. The sea stretched out in front of me, endless and indifferent, the waves lapping the shore with a rhythm that should have been comforting. I took a long swig of the cold beer in my hand, hoping that each sip would dull the sharp edges of the faces I still saw every time I closed my eyes. Escape their gaze. A laughable notion. They were with me always, shadows that no ocean could wash away. It was in that fog of remorse and cheap beer that I heard the news. First, just a murmur from the tourists gathered around a bar television in the distance. Then the crackle of urgent voices, sharp with disbelief, spreading like wildfire. I barely listened at first, content to wallow in my personal hell, until one word broke through the noise. America. I rose, feet stumbling on the sand as I edged closer, my heart hammering in my chest, a mix of dread and curiosity pulling me toward the screen. The words scrolled in grim red at the bottom of the screen, details flashing in cold, detached precision. An asteroid, a massive one, had struck the U.S. with a force they claimed was 500,000 times deadlier than 9/11. It was a cataclysm beyond comprehension, a blow that had wiped out everything in its path, leaving nothing but ash and ruin. My mind reeled as they described the zones of impact. The Midwest, the East Coast, all obliterated in one breath. Entire cities erased as if they'd never been there. My fingers tightened around the bottle, knuckles going white. And as the names of the cities flickered across the screen, I realized with a sickening clarity that everything I'd known was gone. My family, my friends, every familiar place, wiped clean from existence. They were all dead. I stumbled back to the shore, barely able to think straight, my mind a vortex of disbelief and grief. The beer slipped from my grip, the bottle hitting the sand with a dull thud, foamy liquid spilling out in a dark, spreading stain. I sank down, head in my hands, feeling the weight of a world that no longer made sense pressing down on me. And then, amidst the haze of shock, an insane thought clawed its way into my mind, gripping me with a force I couldn't shake. What if? What if that voice, that seductive whisper that had led me down such a dark path, had been right? What if there had been a purpose after all? What if this catastrophe was the very thing it had warned me of? If I had listened, if I had gone through with it all, could I have stopped this? I stared out at the sea, the questions circling like a predator, hungry and unrelenting. Somewhere in that emptiness, I found myself wondering if, in trying to escape madness, I'd abandoned my one chance to save them.